I'm Ella Orr. I'm coming to you from the middle of England, from Leicestershire, and I'm delighted to be on Prosper's show. I'm a personal brand coach and consultant. I also work in the field of social media marketing, and I'm delighted today that I'm going to be talking to Prosper all about my journey from being a teacher to working in social media and personal branding. I hope you enjoy the show.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place to find exclusive conversations with people who are reshaping how we build businesses, brands, and a happier existence. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and I'm really excited for the episode we're about to jump into today. Now, if you've ever maybe stared at your LinkedIn profile or your social media pages and you're thinking, what exactly am I supposed to say about myself without sounding like a confused superhero? Today's episode is just for you, because joining us is somebody who knows exactly how to help you become seen, known, and remembered. And I know you're going to remember her after this episode without all the overwhelm that comes along with the algorithm and the identity crisis that comes with it. Now, Ella, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Prosper. It's lovely to be with you, even though it's the wee hours of the morning here in England. I should say the small hours of the morning. Not that small. It's not 1 o'clock in the morning, but it's sort of, it's early.
You know the advantage of that, Ella, is I could actually look up the lottery numbers in your area, because it's about 6 p.m. right now in Australia. So I would probably know what happened early in the morning in the UK. And by the time everybody else wakes up, you already have the numbers. You play the lottery, but we split it 60-40. 60 my way, 40 your way, because I came up with the idea.
All right. I'm not sure if we have a deal there, but
All right, if we're not going to have a deal on that, at least let's agree on one thing. We are going to have a fantastic episode today.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's good to meet you, Prosper.
Great stuff. Now, for those that are meeting Ella Orr for the very first time, she's a personal branding coach, social media strategist, former teacher, and somebody who once aspired to be a professional singer. Well, I promise I'm not going to make her hit a high note today, because she's already asked me not to even go there, all right? And I've checked with the legal team. I think we can't argue with her on that one. So what we have right now is just Ella's journey. And I know it's one that a lot of us are going to relate to, because she spent years in a career that didn't maybe leave room for her own creativity. And also she didn't have a voice there, but she knew she had one inside of her. And after heartbreaking loss in the family, it made her realize, hey, there's more to life, and there's a way you can design it yourself. So obviously that's the tension we're going to be leaning into today. I mean, what does it really take to reinvent yourself? How do you build a personal brand that actually feels true and not tactical? And how to turn your story, even if you've got painful parts and parts that you don't want out, but make that into a powerful asset that helps others. So I'm not going to be mincing, umming and ahhing on things that I know nothing about. Why don't we bring Ella, the expert, to tell us a little bit about her journey? But Ella, I'm really excited to have you on the show today. And I've actually just discovered we're literally from the same parts of the world. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you sort of got a bit of your start.
Yeah, thanks, Prosper. Well, yeah, I mean, it's great that you mentioned about us being from similar parts of the world. I was actually born in London, so those people who can detect this UK accent, yeah, it's very firmly in London, but I actually now live in the middle of England. I fulfilled my childhood dream. I always wanted to live in the countryside, and I now live in a little village in the middle of England, in a county called Leicestershire. But my heritage is from Mauritius. In case you were wondering, so if you can spot my Mauritius flag in the background, that's where Prosper and I are saying we're both from, Southern Hemisphere people, so that is very much part of my personal brand. It's very much part of my identity, and as I've grown in confidence with speaking about my personal brand, I've been talking a lot more about things that are far more personal to me. But where did I start with all of this? Well, I was I trained as a teacher back in the late 80s. That will give you an idea about how old I am. Um, but as Prosper said, I wanted to be a professional singer. That was what I always wanted to do when I was at school and when I went to college. I did music and dance. But then I met somebody at college, and we decided that we were going to get married, and therefore, pursuing a career in professional singing as a professional singer didn't seem the kind of like sensible thing to do, the most stable thing to do. So I went into teaching. I spent almost 30 years in teaching, working in education, starting off in what we call primary school here in the UK. So teaching the younger children from age 5 up to 11. And then I will admit, the whole thing of I was working in very tough schools in Coventry, which is in the middle of England. It's also in the Midlands. I did end up, sort of like really struggling after 11 or 12 years of doing that. So I left teaching, working in a formal primary school, formal education, as it were, and I ended up working in education charities. But then I ended up going back into teaching, and teaching adults and teaching post 16 children, young people aged 16 to 19. But that still didn't satisfy me. And then in my early 50s, as Prosper mentioned, my mum passed away, and honestly, it just made me really think: do I want to stay in this career for the rest of my working life? Because I wasn't enjoying it, not because of the teaching side. I loved being with the students, loved delivering the lessons, but the whole sort of bureaucracy and the paperwork and everything else. And I got to a sort of pretty desperate state. And then I didn't know what to do. I was really unhappy, really miserable, despite everything else in my life being fine. I've got a lovely family. I love where I live. I've got good friends and whatever, but I needed to change my career. And I just was scrolling on my phone one day. I thought, can you actually do a job in this? And it turns out that you can. I didn't realize at the time that you could actually work in social media. And here I am now, almost 8 years later. Yeah. And so if you do the maths, I was 60 in May.
Absolutely. And happy birthday in advance, because obviously
Thank
you do
you.
realize life begins at 60 now. It's not 40 anymore.
Well, yeah, I was 60. So this is, I've been enjoying being 60 since May. And I'm honestly, I am prospering, Prosper. I am prospering.
Good idea. Well, thank you so much for, opening us up with that, because this just gives us a little bit of a lens into your journey. But what was the allure with singing? Was there an aspiration, somebody we saw on TV or somebody in the family that, really, really gave you that spark that this is something that I would want to do?
Well, I'm called Ella. So if anybody has heard of Ella Fitzgerald, very famous jazz singer.
You should see the egg on my face. I should have put. Okay, go on. Yeah.
I was called Ella long before all the Ellas that are now around, honestly. But yeah, no, I don't actually think it was because of Ella Fitzgerald. I always remember my mum. She used to sing a lot when she was cooking. I think a lot of people's mums from the Southern Hemisphere used to sing when they were cooking. I think it's very much, part of the African tradition. It's very much part of the Indian tradition. So yeah, she used to sing French songs, because French is spoken a lot still in Mauritius. And then I always loved music. And I think I just had this talent for singing. And I think that was why I thought, and I had a lovely music teacher when I was at school who really encouraged me with my singing. And I had some really lovely singing teachers who were always very encouraging. And yeah, I wish that I'd kind of pursued it really, because I was doing classical singing. So that could have been quite a career really, because I wanted to do something more in the sort of classical or musical theatre sort of area. But yeah, music is still very, very close to my heart. I still sing in a choir here in Leicestershire. And yeah, I just think everybody should sing because it does wonderful things for your brain.
And thank you so much for bringing us to that light. Now, obviously, you have mentioned that mom has since passed on, but if you may, it does seem like she was very instrumental in shaping the person that you later on became. You did allude to her singing while cooking, and obviously there would have been a few other things. What are some of the things that you might attribute to her, you being the person you are today?
Yeah, well, she had a real, what they call joie de vivre, a joy of life.
Right.
She really did. And I think that's what's made me want to embrace things in life, try new things. Obviously she came to the UK as an immigrant in the early 60s. Life would have been very, very tough for her and my dad. I always look back and think about the sacrifices they made for us and my two sisters. I'm one of three siblings. But she always managed to still find joy and happiness and new adventures in, I think, living in this country, because obviously there were things like, say going to see shows, going out for dinner, all that kind of thing, which we wouldn't have done in Mauritius. So she used to take us, even when we were children, she used to take me and my sister to see shows in the West End of London, which was, fantastic to, you kind of go up to, if people know Theatreland in London, it's just full of these theatres, a bit like Broadway in New York, and there's all these bright lights and it's all the excitement and whatever. And we used to love going up to London with her. And then when we got older, she used to take us out for dinner, and we went on some fantastic holidays with her. So I think all of that kind of like spirit of adventure, that spirit of enjoying life and making the most of the moment is very much what I've got from my mum. And it's very much what drives me now.
Absolutely. And congratulations. As kids, we're very impressionable. And when we take to one of the parents, we obviously, end up becoming a little somewhat of what, they were. But also, I just wanted to maybe find out what it was sort of like growing up for yourself. Obviously, your family seemingly didn't look like it came from where you guys were. What was the sort of, feel like when you're, walking on the streets and I'm
really glad you've mentioned that, Prosper, because I think, it's still a subject that a lot of people feel very sensitive about talking about. But I think, in the new world we're living in now, people, it helps. It's kind of like healing in a way to talk about the way things were for you as a child. It's not something I necessarily would have talked about 10 years ago. But now I'm older, and I say I'm much more of a believer in, authenticity and openness, because there's always going to be someone who resonates with your story. So for me, it was tough being a brown skinned child in East London. It was, I remember, and my sister and I were very close. We're still close now. There's only 3 years between the two of us, but I remember us walking up the road, and we would get all kinds of horrible names. I don't want to repeat them on air here, but people who can use can work out what they were. And I remember we used to have some bricks thrown through our front window, and our parents were very sort of protective. They never sort of went into why it was that happened. They just dutifully cleared up all the mess, got the window fixed, and started again. But I think I was always conscious. It's something that's always been deep seated within me about being different, and questioning why the way the world has was and I mean, now I understand what, now as a fully fledged adult, I understand why it is the way that it is. But I think about like some of the ways in which maybe we didn't get opportunities, or we were overlooked, or we were put in certain roles, maybe when you're in a school play. Because it's all these things about stereotypes, aren't there? You're the brown skinned kid, therefore you're going to be cast as this, or put in that role, or whatever. So I'm not saying we used to experience overt racism when we were out in the street. But I think at school maybe we weren't as aware of it. I went to a school where there was a lot of other sort of like black and brown kids. It was a very multi-ethnic area in London back then. But it's something I'm very conscious of now, and it was something that as I say, I did question it all through my teaching career, because I know there were times when obviously I wanted to talk about racism or anti-racism strategies and stuff like that, and there was always a little bit of pushback from my leaders at school. I think it was things like that. When you think about all the frustrations of when you're working in a role, and things that you can't talk about, things you have to keep your mouth zipped about, you don't say that, Ella, because you know that it's going to maybe affect a promotion or something like that. Now I'm very different, Prosper. I'll just say it.
And you know what? I really appreciate you taking us there, because, I mean, obviously, I do understand when things like that are, exposed to a person, they either take one or two routes. So the one route is to prove everybody else wrong, that they too deserve a seat on the table, or they are actually, like you said, quietened and made to not want to ruffle the feathers or disturb the status quo. Now, of those two routes, which one do you think was strongly lined with how you proceeded?
Yeah, I think I was definitely the second to begin with. Just, keep quiet, don't really say anything. And I think that obviously shaped the way that my mum and dad brought us up as well. Because they were, well, especially my mum, she was sort of quite a quieter person. I wouldn't say the same for my dad. I think my dad got very frustrated and probably got into a few, arguments at work. I mean, I can't say, I don't want to say too much about that because he's no longer here, but I just think about my dad's personality. But funnily enough, I think even though I followed my mum in terms of wanting to make the best of life and be happy and try and find the positive, I think I've also got a huge amount of my dad in terms of me, in terms of fire, fire in the belly, because there were things I wanted to say, things that I'd get very upset and cross about, and I was bottling it all up. And I think even as an adult, when I started working in teaching and as I went through my teaching career, I was still bottling it all up.
Right.
But one of the reasons that certainly in the last 20 years or more recently, the last 10 years, I've become a lot more confident in speaking my mind publicly. And just voicing my point of view about things. And I encourage people to step up and speak up. And I know it's very hard, especially when you're in a corporate role, to you're being expected to toe the line in a certain way, follow the company, the company guidelines, the company voice about this, that, and the other. It's really, really hard, and I think probably that's why, in a way, running my own business, being my own boss, it's meant that I make the choices about what I say. But I know the reason why I say them, because I think it aligns people with you, and it's a very strong part of personal brand. When you can speak your voice, you don't have to be controversial, you don't have to upset people, but express your values, because when you express your values, people know what you're about, and then they can decide whether or not they're going to follow you on LinkedIn or not.
I like that, because if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for whatever. And with the way we live today, people just really want to know, are you friend or foe, before they actually even engage.
It's sad. It's sad that it has to be like that, but I think that's the way of the world that we're in now.
Yeah, great stuff. You see, the reason why I asked this, because your journey sort of takes a bit of a turn, and some of the themes that are coming up are basically influenced by how, you've explained yourself that, there was elements of you having to obviously do the right thing or whatever. But as you grew, you then found your voice. So that's very important. Yes. Now, would that have been the allure of a house in the countryside, and also going for a sensible job in teaching, that meant subconsciously?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, aspiring to things that are the expectations. I mean, I'm very happy with my life now. Honestly, I've got a fantastic husband. We've been together over 20 years. He's wonderful. It's actually, incidentally, this isn't the husband that I met. This isn't the first one who I met at college. Is a different one. Right. But I've got a fantastic life, and I've got a lot of privilege. Honestly, I have a lot of privilege. I know that, but I do know that maybe if my parents' mindset was different, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them for encouraging us to get good jobs, get an education, marry somebody sensible, have children, all that kind of thing. Maybe I know that I've got a spirit of adventure in me, and there's things that I would like to have done when I was younger, like seeing a lot more of different parts of the world, trying a few different more career, different jobs and all that kind of thing. So maybe things might have been different, but I don't live life with regrets, Prosper. It's not worth it.
That's all right. Now, obviously, still just touching up on that. I mean, you've got ethnic sort of upbringing, and quite a lot of people that I would maybe have spoken to in the past would say a lot of the parents, especially migrants, I'm first generation myself, and I kind of catch myself having to, question what type of parent I'm becoming. I mean, I almost threw a fit this Halloween. My little girl was dressed as a witch, and obviously it took everything inside of me to not have her do that, because to us, a witch is a witch. Like all they do is do potions and stuff like that. But with your sort of case, I mean, this will be the last of this sort of range. Was there any expectation for you to do something in life?
Yes, to get in terms of my parents expecting.
Yes. Right.
Get a good. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Excuse me. I think that's the thing. It's kind of like following a career in teaching. It's a profession. It's something that gives you status. It's something where you're recognized, and I think that is, it still happens very much today that children who are, who've got heritage from elsewhere, their parents, especially if you're, a black child or a brown skinned child, Chinese, Korean, Far Eastern, whatever. There's an expectation that you're going to follow a career path where you get that recognition, you get that status, you get the money, you get that that thing that says in life that you've made it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing. If I'd pursued a career as a professional singer, I would have. I think my mum and dad would have probably been okay with it. They would have been fine with it, but they didn't encourage it. They didn't encourage me when I was younger to pursue that. And I have to say, I mean, I've got a daughter, a teenager. She's about to finish her, college and school career and everything else, and she's making choices about what she wants to do with her life. And I am just, my husband and I are just encouraging her as much as possible to follow the route that she wants to follow. And I realise that I have that privilege of being able to do that with my child. And I think that probably my mum and dad didn't have that.
Yeah.
They knew that it was better go into a good job, get a decent career, get something where you can be promoted, get something where you can work your way up the ladder and get more money and more status and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that. But you also have shared to us that your mom's passing became a turning point, right?
Yeah.
And that sort of broke the pattern, and you were like,
yes.
Maybe you can walk us through the moment you actually realized staying here is actually costing me a lot more than leaving ever will, just so that we understand the transition that then ensued. Because the person we're speaking to today, I don't think we would have been able to get you while you're in your long days, lesson plans, and while that inner voice was just stuck inside.
Yeah. So it was really quite disturbing, really, how I spiraled downwards. I mean, obviously losing a parent, and my father had already passed away 20 years ago. Well, it was I can't remember. He died in 2004. So it would have been, it was 12 years afterwards that my mum then passed away. But having lost my dad, obviously we still had my mum. Then when my mum passed away, obviously you're left almost like an orphan, aren't you? Your parents are no longer here. And it's upsetting and it's distressing and you're full of grief. But there was more to this grief, because, as I say, I kind of like, it just made me realise, life is short. When my mum passed away, it was like, life is short. I was in this teaching career. I had another 10 years to go until I was able to collect my pension. And I was thinking, I'm just wishing my life away. And this isn't what I want. I don't want to go to work every day wishing for the end of the day to come, then wishing for the end of the week to come, for the weekend, and then starting the cycle again on Monday. And my friends were sort of saying to me, well, why don't you do, my husband as well, why don't you do this, that, and the other? You could do tutoring, go on supply teaching, blah, 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 that kind of thing. But honestly, I was really, really, as I say, spiraling downwards. And I have acupuncture therapy. And my acupuncturist, she said to me, because she says, I'm a fire person. Surprise, surprise, Prosper. And she said to me, the embers they're going out. And I was really, really low, really low. It was quite a dark time. So that was the beginning of 2017. So it was about 5 months after my mum had died. And to say, I just thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. So it was almost like someone out there, some voice out there, kind of realized I needed help, I needed guidance, I needed support. Now I'm not necessarily a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And as I say, I was just scrolling on my phone thinking, what can I do? I've got teaching, I've got all these skills from teaching, communication skills. I actually like, going on, at the time it was like Facebook. I like going on Facebook and whatever. And I thought, can I do a job in this? And honestly, I typed in something on Google search, and the first thing that came up was this course around social media marketing, and it was called Digital Mums. So it was aimed at women who were parents who had left the corporate world or left a job to bring up their children and were looking to make money, were looking to, you know, have a new career in something. And I thought, oh, should I apply for it? Now, you know, bless her, my mum had left me some money in her will, so I could afford to pay for the course. So I embarked on this 6-month course. But even then I had doubts, Prosper, about whether or not I was the right fit. You know, were they going to accept me onto the course? I was in my early 50s at the time. And even being, you know, a woman of colour as well, I had those doubts go through my mind. So that same narrative that always went through my mind every time I applied for a new job in teaching went through my mind when I applied for this course in social media marketing.
Oh, absolutely. And good on you. I mean, I viscerally believe the algorithm was so good back in the time. And when you start a journey, you would find the right kind of things, and the right people, like you said, would show up with very, very genuine offers and things of that nature. So kudos to you for having seen it and acted upon it, because many people feel stuck in a career and they don't take action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And,
Yes.
you know, it's one of those things that I think in Australia, they've got a statement that they say, oh, she'll be all right, mate. You know, like things will take care of themselves. And I feel like other cultures also have their own sort of statements just to pat yourself in the back that everything is going to be okay. But you enrolled in this social media course, and now you're being taught something completely different. Like, what was the paradigm shift that happened to you in that whole scenario? Because
unbelievable. I mean, one of the things that was really interesting, and this is something else I'm very interested in, was that, you know, I'd worked in a career which was predominantly women. You know, teaching, especially in primary education, is a predominantly, you know, female-driven workforce. Yeah, I joined this digital mums course. I met some very different women, because first of all, they weren't teachers. You know, they've come from all different kinds of careers. And a lot of them were women who were prepared to speak their mind, women who had very, very strong focus. You know, I think probably because a lot of them had come from, you know, marketing and PR backgrounds, and they'd had to hold their ground. They'd had to, you know, maintain their status working in a predominantly male-dominated profession. So I was meeting these pretty, and I love this word, you know, because I use it to describe myself, feisty women, you know, who made me think differently about being a woman in a profession. And they, you know, there was, you know, there was a lot of talk about inequality with pay, inequality with work conditions. And, you know, there were, you know, lots of women who became surrounded by, who were campaigning for better work-life balance. That was the whole sort of driving force behind Digital Mums, because it was being in a career where you could maintain work-life balance. And, you know, and women carry so much guilt about working and being parents, far more than fathers do. And you know, and then there's the whole like family balance stuff as well, because and I'm seeing this now with my friends, my younger friends, you know, they've got aging parents, so they're having to manage the needs of aging parents. They've got maybe got children who they've had later in life, because a lot of women are having children later in life. So they've still got children at school, they've got aging parents, and they're trying to manage a career as well. So there's lots of conversation all around that, and around women's, you know, issues that challenge women. And it just made me realize that I am actually a feminist and that, you know, and that I've got a voice and I can use it and I can speak up. And that doesn't mean to say that I hate men, dislike men. I think men are wonderful, and they've, you know, but I just feel that there needs to be far more equity, far more opportunity. And I'm worried at the moment with the way things are going in the world in terms of diversity, equity and inclusion. I really am. So that's another issue that, you know, that I can get on my soapbox out and talk about on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And I really, really love that you got your voice back and you had all these discoveries and things of that nature. Now, obviously, there would be maybe a teacher that's also listening to this, and they are probably still working within the status quo and things of that nature, and they wouldn't have met the kind of communities like yours. Now, had you not stepped into this, would your life have been the same, or where would Ella be right now?
I think I'd be much more of a closed-minded person. I'm not going to say a closed book, because I've always worn my heart on my sleeve, but I'd be a closed-minded person. I think this is the thing. One of the things I really love about what I do now is that I've met so many interesting people. Prosper, I wouldn't be sitting here speaking to you now if it hadn't been for the fact that I'd not done that digital mums course, you know?
Right.
And I mean, the people I've met from around the world, the people I've then met at events here in the UK who've come from overseas, you know, because obviously when you go to marketing events, you get people coming from all over the world coming to the marketing events. It's fantastic. And social media marketing people especially are very sociable.
You would think,
so yeah,
right?
So it's really, I've met some, but it's not just that. It's like, as I say, as well, the causes that I champion, the things that I believe in, you know, about, you know, talking about anti-racism, sexism and so forth. You know, it means that my conversations online have led me to meet new people who align with the same way that I think, and you know, I think that's one of the positive sides of social media. There's a lot of negatives about it, but I think that's one of the positives.
Speaking of social media, I mean, there's so many different platforms. Some have been bought, sold. I mean, obviously, if Elon Musk just really wanted to tweet, he could have just downloaded the platform for free. So there's a whole lot going on there. And some platforms, you know, are evolving as we grow and things like that. But you seem to be very prevalent on LinkedIn. Why is that?
So after I finished my social media marketing training, obviously because Digital Mums is, they used to roll out a new cohort of students every month starting the course. So every month after the 6-month course had finished, you'd get a whole batch of graduates graduating from the Digital Mums course. So of course, we were all going for the same opportunities. Whenever a new role came up, it would be, you know, we were all in a big Facebook group and these new roles would appear, but we were all going for the same roles. And even then when I went to sort of like find jobs through agencies, or I heard about another opportunity, I just didn't seem to be able to win those clients or win those pitches. And that was my next kind of dip, really. I'd had the dip when my mum had passed away, and then I found this new course. Then after I trained, I was all full of enthusiasm, but then I had another dip, not as bad as the first dip, but I had another dip because I thought, how on earth am I going to be found? How can I stand out? And that was when I discovered personal branding. So I'd heard about this because I'd joined a mini course, a mini membership actually, and they'd been talking about personal branding and the importance of that in terms of helping you to stand out, helping you to sort of promote your uniqueness and individuality. So I pursued that personal branding pathway. And then I thought, hold on a minute, lots of social media managers and marketers are on Instagram and on Facebook. Not many of them are on LinkedIn. So I decided to plow my route through LinkedIn. I was completely lost to begin with because I was just following lots of other digital mums and lots of other social media marketers, and I didn't realize that actually I just got myself stuck in an echo chamber. And that's a message to your listeners, Prosper. If you're on LinkedIn, for goodness sake, just don't hang out with your friends. Don't hang out with people who are in the same profession as you. You're supposed to be expanding your network, broadening your network. And you can only do that by talking to people who are outside of your traditional network. So yeah, I went on LinkedIn. At first, I would say I was lost. I wasn't getting much traction. And then I put a video out on LinkedIn, and it got seen by a few LinkedIn trainers. And from there, it just took off, and I've gradually grown my following. It's a steady growth. And I know there's probably certain reasons why I don't, get as many followers or connections, because I don't connect with everybody. I'm very strategic about who I connect with. I'm strategic about who I follow. But I've got a healthy following, and I get interest in my content, in my LinkedIn newsletter and so forth. So I love LinkedIn. It's a bit nutty at the moment, a bit crazy, all strange things happening with the algorithm, all kinds of strange things going on. But I'm in a really good community on LinkedIn, and I know some really great people who have become my friends.
Oh, absolutely. I really, really appreciate that, because at the end of the day, I mean, like the algorithms that you're talking about a rich tapestry of history, people, events, and things that shaped you to be the person that you are. So you can only imagine the people that we're also meeting on social media all have that amongst them. So we all can't like or see or feel the same things, and yet people think we should all have the same sort of look and feel. And that's where I think a personal brand really comes into play. And just hearing your voice and hearing what you're talking about just really makes me realize that it is definitely your element, because you help people be seen, be known, and be remembered, right? And who will forget a person like you after hearing you speak today?
Thank you, Prosper. Well, I really do believe that there are ways to be visible on LinkedIn without it being cringy, without it being uncomfortable. That's why my LinkedIn profile says, I do personal branding without the cringe, because I know a lot of people find it really uncomfortable to talk about themselves. They find it uncomfortable to put themselves out there, but there are ways that you can be visible. And it starts with, commenting. If you can comment on posts, especially the ones of people that you want to get in front of, the people that you want to be seen by. So you're not just randomly commenting, but you're commenting strategically. And that means putting time and effort into thinking about, what's my LinkedIn strategy? What am I going to do when I spend 5-10 minutes on this platform 3 times a week or whatever? Or am I just going to sit there mindlessly scrolling and looking at my notifications, which is what people end up doing? Yeah. So yeah, no, I really believe that there is a way to find your tribe, find your audience on LinkedIn, and talk to them. Don't talk to everybody, because we can't be everything to everybody.
I like that, because so many people LinkedIn says we've got 3 billion viewers. Not everyone is meant to be looking and watching at what you're doing. No, you just want your right kind of people with the right kind of pain that are coming in your space that you can sort of deal with and work with, and things of that nature. But there's one other thing on LinkedIn as well, is I find that, and I really like that this example sort of works with you. A lot of people are coming from another career where LinkedIn was a revered sort of platform, and it meant that whatever they had on there meant they would eat or feed their kids. Yet when they then transition into the kind of work that you and I obviously are doing, where we are literally having to create a personal brand, and we need to put our best foot forward. A lot of people find that a little bit hard to do and make that sort of transition. And I actually say this, Ella, I don't know how you feel about this, but LinkedIn is the only platform that people actually go onto with their pants on. With other platforms, they could be
I love that, Prosper. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean,
it's a professional platform. It's so we have to maintain that professional stance. But being professional doesn't mean to say not being human. And I think that's why having an opinion. And being and say be strategic about how you voice your opinion. you don't have to do it in a post. Commenting, if you want to voice an opinion, do it professionally. Do it where you're adding something to the conversation, as you would do in a face-to-face conversation with somebody when you're networking and whatever. And don't go and rant on there, but you can have a point of view. And if you can give your point of view, say within a comment, and keep the conversation going, then people will go and check out your profile. And if your profile is optimized, it's a good looking profile, it's got everything filled in, it's your shop window, then people will go to your profile and go, oh, well, actually, I can understand why that person is saying what they're saying. Or I have respect for that person for what they're saying, because your profile shows you as a professional person, not someone who's got no photo, just got the the job. Your headline is just your job, and there's nothing else filled in, and you're almost like a bot. And let's face it, we've got plenty of trouble with bots at the moment on social media and online. Yeah. So show up as a human being, show up as a real person, show up as a person who's got a view about something. It doesn't have to be, something, a controversial topic, but, show yourself. That is the difference between the corporate you on LinkedIn and the personal brand driven you, because the personal brand driven you will be your personality. But it is a leap. It is a leap. You're right, Prosper, to go from the corporate profile, where your profile looks pretty much the same as everybody else that works in the company, to being, actually, this is me. Here's how I'm now going to show up on LinkedIn. It's a mindset leap, and I help people with that. I help people to make that mindset leap.
Absolutely. Now, lastly, you did refer to yourself as a feisty woman, and we're really trying to tame you here on this episode. I'm hoping,
despite having my animal print top on.
Yeah, and obviously knowing what you know now about where you've been, what you've been doing, and things like that. But what sort of misconceptions about personal branding really frustrates you the most? Something you wish you could maybe debunk for others who are not yet initiated, so to speak.
I think that thing of if you don't. A lot of people think that personal branding is maybe like showing off or bragging, or even that they haven't got, I haven't got a story to tell. We all have a story to tell.
Right.
And you choose the way in which you want to tell it. And you choose the way in which, how much of that story you tell. You don't need to go into details, but we've all got a story. That's why we're on this, we're on this earth with a wonderful life story. And some of it will be painful, some of it will be heartbreaking, some of it will be stuff that we don't want to share, but there'll be parts of it that if you can share something, will say relate to somebody else. And that's the thing that's going to show your uniqueness and your individuality. But and that's not showing off, that's not bragging, that's not kind of saying, oh, woe is me, look at my heartbreak story or anything like that. It doesn't have to be anything like that. But I think if I could just debunk that myth that, you've got to have something that's major that's happened to you in life, or you're going to have had something life-changing, or you're going to have to have written a book, or you're going to have to be somebody famous, or you're going to have to be someone that's done something in the public eye. No, you don't have to have done any of those things, but you do need to share your story, because otherwise you just end up being the best kept secret. Nobody knows about you, and you just melt into the background and become part of the wallpaper, and then you wonder why it is that no one sees your business, or no one can differentiate you from the next accountant, legal professional, social media marketer, graphic designer, podcast maker. You've got to find your way of standing out, and that's what I want to debunk. That there's nothing wrong with standing out. but it's you do it on the way that you feel comfortable, but also aligns with what the target audience you're trying to attract.
Absolutely. Now, somebody could be watching this and thinking, oh, I'm not feisty or as feisty as Ella is. I don't have a background in teaching. I didn't get a chance to be on, a course that would have taught me to do anything else. But I know I need to show up more and I don't know where to start. So I've been looking around. You've got a launch pad that people can literally get started off on without the overwhelm. And it actually says it gives you clarity and confidence and a pathway and things of that nature. Could you just maybe walk us through what that is and how people can get started?
Yeah. So that's on my website. It's called the Personal Brand Launchpad. And it's really about getting started with your personal brand and me kind of metaphorically holding your hand through the starting process. So it's working with me for half a day. There's some pre-work to do. I won't call it homework, but as an ex-teacher, but there's a little bit of sort of like prep work for you to do, but we work that I guide you with, and then we spend the half a day together for you to get started on working out what the foundations of your personal brand will be. And we come up with what I call personal brand pillars. And these are the topics, the subjects that you are going to talk about that are going to attract your target audience to you. So they'll be the foundation of your website, the foundation of your social media posts, the foundation of your commenting, and the foundation of when you go and introduce yourself in real life at networking, because a lot of people stumble over that when they introduce themselves. They just tend to introduce themselves through their job title. And, unfortunately, there's going to be thousands and thousands of people who've got the same job title as you, but nobody has got the uniqueness and the individuality of you. And that's what I tap into with you on this personal brand launchpad. And usually after that, people gain a bit of confidence to then go out and start posting and start showing up, to be seen, to be known, to be remembered. But if they don't, then they can work with me further afterwards. But that's the kind of, the starting personal brand package that I work with people on. I hope that explains things, Prosper.
Oh, absolutely. See, while you're talking, I actually realized you haven't left teaching, Ella. I mean, back in the time you were teaching kids to at least elevate into society. Now you're helping people to actually extrapolate the value from society, because if you're seen and you're known and you're actually visible, that's how you get paid.
Exactly. And you create, if you're working, especially if you're working for yourself, you create the life that you want, because you just once you've got your packages, you've got your offers, then how to market yourself, and you got that good balance between personal brand content and sales content, then you're going to get the clients that you're looking for and the clients that are going to stay with you. And then also the thing is, a strong personal brand, your clients know how to recommend you as well. And we all know the value of recommendation and word of mouth contacts.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that the link to the Launchpad is in the show notes so that people can find their way there. Now, Ella, I couldn't shut you up even if I wanted to now. I mean, you introduced us. You introduced us to this voiceless girl who was just trying to mind her own business, figuring life out. The Ella who felt stuck, tired, and unsure. But now you're this full of life, feisty girl that I literally am trying to weave to say, okay, we're running out of tape here, and so much has changed in your timeline. But if you would have an opportunity to whisper, maybe if you could sit down with your younger self, the one that felt stuck, tired, and unsure, what would you tell her today, knowing what you know now about life?
Have the courage to use your voice. definitely. I think, I think if we can teach children to have courage, to be brave, to speak up, to have belief, that all comes from self-confidence, belief in yourself. And I think I wish I'd had that belief in myself back then that I have now. And yeah, it comes with risks. It comes with, you're going to get pushback. You're going to get people that don't like you. But, if you've got the courage to speak up, you will find your people. You'll find people that want to spend time with you, want to hang around with you, want to be your friends, want to encourage and support you. And also, when you're running a business, want to buy from you. That's it.
I think you owe us a book.
Do you think so, Prosper?
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that was Ella. Thank you so much. First of all, your life story and your experience have so much value, like so much that people can extrapolate from. I appreciate you having taken the journey and now sharing that journey with us, because I visually believe in life, we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. Had you not gone through all that you went through, you wouldn't have learned the lessons that you're now sending down the elevator now. And I can't wait to see what people are going to do with this information today.
Thank you so much, Prosper. It's been brilliant to meet you and lovely to speak to your audience.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. I mean, obviously, for reminding us that reinvention isn't luxury. It's actually a responsibility to ourselves, because you could have gone, you've mentioned 8 years. Can you imagine the 8 years had just gone past and you wouldn't have felt how you feel right now? Gosh, we couldn't have met, because you would have been probably in some school somewhere in the countryside, like you said, So thank you so much for stepping out and showing the world what they've been missing. Now, I don't know if they're prepared for this.
I'm sure they are.
Great. So now, if you're watching this,
Prosper, they know about you, Prosper. So I'm sure that they'll know about the range of guests. I've listened to some of your previous episodes. You've had some amazing guests on. So I'm honoured to be added to the guest list.
Absolutely. Well, if you look at my fingers, no two fingers on the same hand are of the same height. Every guest that comes on the show brings something completely unique and foreign, and I really appreciate you sharing your journey with us today.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Now, if you're watching this, I hope you still have a bit of the beverage you started off with, and if not, hey, I want you to actually do something right now, and don't ignore this. If you felt a tiny pull towards Ella's story, that's pretty much the same pull that took her from the classroom to now showing up in the world and doing what she does now. And if you see the spring in her step or the sound of her voice, definitely, this is something that I wish upon a lot of people to experience, at least so that you too can be, do, and have a happier existence. So if you felt that pull, imagine what answering your pull could actually unlock. So make sure you check out Ella's work and connect with her on LinkedIn and follow much more social media across the platforms there. And if you're ready to claim your voice, I want you to also check out the personal brand launchpad that she's just really shared with us. And if you absolutely loved today's conversation, I mean, I want you to share this episode with somebody who probably needs this, someone who has a story but hasn't quite realized they have a voice. And I want this to be the episode that pulls that voice out from them. And if somebody has shared this with you, the next time you see them, just give them a big hug, because your life is about to change. And while you're at it, why don't you subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show so you don't miss out on episodes like this? Because from what I hear, the next episode, we're going to be talking about how you can actually not build a profitable life, but an actual happy life. I can't wait to see what you're going to do with this information today. Thanks, Ella, once again. Bye for now.